No, she's right at the back.
Well, there you are. You can hear me?
So,
You can hear me?
We're on the air. Larry. Mike's hot. Mike's hot.
Your mouth is wide open.
Yes, he did. Lost your shield? I guess I gotta get a phone.
Lift one up. Eric.
Right here. Steve. Do me a favor. I had a shield. I left the shield underneath. Don't have it there. If there's one for tomorrow, so I can stick up with this.
Okay, I will find him.
Okay.
Oh, you got it. Okay, go.
Whenever you
no lifting.
So you're here tonight, but tomorrow night, and tomorrow night. Michelle's okay?
yeah.
Fatima Tova, everyone. Samir. It has been said, for transgressions against God, the Day of Atonement atones. But the transgressions between one human being and another, the Day of Atonement, does not atone unless they've first been reconciled. Once more, Atonement Day has come, all pretense gone with naked heart, revealed to the hiding self. We stand on holy ground, between the day that was and the one that must be, and we tremble. At what did we aim? How did we stumble? What did we take and what did we give? To what were we blind? Last year's confessions came easy to the lips. Will this one come from deeper than the skin? Say then, why are these paths strewn with promises like fallen leaves? Say then, when shall our lust be for wisdom? Say now, our dream shall be of a kiss that mates compassion to the just. O hope of Israel, in our weakness give us strength, in our blindness be our guide. When we falter, hold our hand. Make consistent our impulse for good. Let us know the joy of walking in your ways. Light dawns from the righteous, and gladness from the upright heart. We turn in our Machzorim to page 207. Please rise, recall Nidrei, as the ark is now open.
Ubishiva Shamata Adat Hamakom V'adat Hakam Onu Matir Lihipalel Im Ha'abarayoni Oh darna udishtabana udacharim no v'diasana am nafshatana b'yom Yom Kippurim Abaleinu letova Olavon Yicheratana Olavon Yon Shara Yon Shara Shebikin Shebikin Meteilim Utalim La Shariri La Kayamin Nidrana La Nidrei Yesarana La Etzarei Ushbuatana La Shevu V'nisnach l'chol adat b'nei Yisrael V'lager hagar b'tocham Ki l'chol ha'am b'ishgaga Shiva Shamala Ubishiva Shamata Adatamakon Yadatakon Anumatir Mihipalel Mahabariani Shavu Din Darna Urishtabana Vidyasana al nafshatana mio kipurim ad Yom Kippur Habalenu letova kolon ichratana behon kolon yon Kolon Yeharan Sharan Sherikin Sherikin Metelin Mutalin La Sharirin Vela Kayamin Nirana La Nidrei V'yasarana la esarei Ushbuatana la sherovat V'nislach l'chol ladat b'nei Yisrael V'lagir hagar b'tocham Ki l'cho ha'am b'shgaga Mishiva Shamalon Ubishiva Shalmata Adat Hamakom Yadat Akam Matir Nihitmalel Im Havariani Shacharim V'yasana Hanafshatana Miyom Kippurim Yom Kippurim Abaleinu Abaleinu Letova Kolavon Ichratana Alahan Yahan Sharon Kalahan Yahan Sharon Meteilin Megutalin La Sharirin Vela Kayamin Nidrana La Nidrei Yesarana lo esareyo Yesarana lo esareyo Ushavuatana la shevu V'nislach l'chol adas b'nei Yisrael V'lager hagar v'tocham Ki l'chol ha'am v'shgagam Slachna l'avon ha'mazeh Ki godel chazdecho V'chasher nasata l'amazeh Mimizrayim v'yadheina V'sham Nehemar Vayomer Adonai salachti kitvarecha Vayomer Adonai salachti kitvarecha Vayomer Adonai salachti kitvarecha Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehecheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh 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 Shehechiyon v'kiyamon v'higiyon l'azman 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 hazeh L'azman hazeh
We continue with the Ma'ariv service to be found on page 213. The ark is closed. We remain standing for Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu yom u'mevi layla u'madim ben yom u'ben layla Adonai tzava'ot shemo el chai v'kayom Tov midimloch aleinu li'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Harabim Ahavat olam Bet Yisrael Amcha Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu Ishachenu Kumeinu Nosiach bechukecha V'nizmach b'divrei Toratecha U'mitzvotecha U'mitzvotecha Ya'olam ha'ed Ki ein chayenu v'yorech yameinu U'bohem negeh yomam v'layla Ki ein chayenu v'yorech yameinu U'bohem negeh yomam v'layla V'yavato atasim imenu li'alamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohei v'amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Li'olam Adonai Elohechem Emet U'malchuta b'ratzon kilu aleichem Moshe u'bnei Yisrael L'chanu shira V'simcha rabba Yamaru kulam Mi chamocha Oedim Adonai Mi chamocha Neder b'kodesh Nora tehilot Osei Pele Malchutcho Rabbanecha Bokei Yom Lifnei Moshe Ze'eli Amru Yamaru Adonai Yimloch Li'olam ha'ed V'ne'emar Ki koron es Yaakov U'kol ami achazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Shoah Yisrael Ashkivei Eloheinu L'Shalom V'Hamidenu Malkeinu L'Chaim V'Ras Aleinu Sukat Shalomecha V'Takeneinu B'Yetza Tova Milfanecha V'Hoshienu L'man Shemecha V'Hagein V'Haneinu V'Haser Me'yoleinu Oyev Deber Oyev Deber Deber B'Cherev Oyev Deber Deber B'Cherev V'Yagol V'Haser Soton Yipaneinu V'Yacharev U'B'Tzel Kinofecha Tastirenu Ki El Shomreinu U'Matzilenu Mata Ki El Melech Chanun V'Rachum Ato U'Shmotzetenu U'Vayenu Uvaros Aleinu Sukat Shalomecha Baruch Atah Adonai HaPores Sukat Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Amo Yisrael V'al Kol Amo Yisrael V'al Yerushalayim.
Please rise, the middle of page 217.
Ki v'yom hazeh yechaper alechem litaherechem mikol chatotechem b'fnei Adonai titaharu Yitkadosh Shemerava E'alema Dimra Kirutei V'yamlich Malachutei V'chayechon U'yomeichon U'b'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala U'bizman Kariv V'yimeru Amen Yehesh Rabba Mevarach Ya'lam Olame Amaya Yibarach Yibarach Yistabach Yipar V'yitrom Olam V'yitnasei V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemer Kudeshah V'yichud V'yela U'ela Mikol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damiran V'yalema V'yimeru
Mari V'mida for Yom Kippur. Kippur is said quietly, pages 218 through 225.
Thank you.
One of the great things about coming to a new place so close to the beginning of the new year is that I haven't really had a chance to offend anyone in the new community, which means that normally at this time I would ask the entire Kehillah for forgiveness before I continue, but I don't think I've been here long enough to offend anyone to ask yet. But just in case, I offer my sincere apologies if I offended anyone in this Kehillah. According to the Midrash, Yom Kippur coincides with the day that Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai with the second set of tablets following that catastrophe known as the Egel Zahav, the golden calf. If we think about the Jewish calendar, it makes complete sense. So let's go back for just a moment. Shavuot was the 6th of Sivan. And the Aseret Dibrot and Moshe came down. They stood there at Sinai, received the Aseret Dibrot, and Moshe Rabbeinu went back up the mountain. And in so doing, he was there for 40 days, which would have coincided with Parshat Mishpatim, as well as Parshat Truma and Parshat Tetzaveh. So he's up there for 40 days. And he comes down, according to the Midrash, on the 17th of Tammuz. And at that moment, on the 17th of Tammuz, as he descends down the mountain, he sees the Egel Zahav and everyone worshiping it, and he gets very angry, and of course he throws down those 2 tablets, because that's what the Midrash tells us. And for the next 6 weeks, Bnei Yisrael, besides dealing with the plague because God was so angry with them, started doing tshuva, started engaging in this national sort of repentance. And after a while, where it seemed like everything had calmed down, 6 weeks go by, and on the 1st of Elul, Moshe Rabbeinu reascends Mount Sinai. This time, he is going to chisel in the Aseret Dibrot, and he's going to listen to all the commandments, and he is going to, 40 days later, make his way down the mountain, all in Parshat Ki Tisa. And when he makes his way down the mountain the second time, it's math. 40 days from the first day of Elul would be tomorrow, Yom Kippur. And on that day, when he comes down the mountain the second time, we understand that Moshe Rabbeinu has Keren Or. He has rays of light emanating from him. He has just experienced God. He's just had another sort of revelation, a revelatory experience where it was just him alone with God. And he comes down the mountain and he is a changed man. And after that moment, Bnei Yisrael listens to the commandments and immediately starts building the Mishkan. That's the Midrash. Last week, when we celebrated Rosh Hashanah, I spoke about the idea that on Yom HaDin, Judgment Day, is a day in which the individual is tantamount. It is individual in nature. We ask God to judge us as individuals. We ask God to remember our deeds as individuals. Even the Torah portion, in terms of its focus on Sarah and the Haftorah, in terms of Hannah, was about God remembering the individual for a covenant. During the Yitana Tokef, we said the words, V'chotem yad kol adam bo. Everyone's signature is in it. The it refers to Sefer Zichronot, the book of remembrance. Now, you should know that I didn't do very well in Hebrew grammar back in rabbinical school all those years before. But I do know enough to say that Chotem Yad Kol Adam Bo is in the singular. Everyone, each individual Jew's signature is in the Sefer Zichronot. Later on in that same prayer, we acknowledge that on Rosh Hashanah we say the words Mi Yichyeh Umi Yamut, Mi Vitzko Umi Vitzko. Who will live and who will die? Who will die at his predestined time, and who will die before his predestined time. Even the commandment to hear the sound of the shofar blasts is focused upon each individual standing and listening, not the kehillah, not the community. However, on Yom Kippur, based on the Midrash, it is truly a communally oriented day, a day in which the nation witnesses and celebrates God's mercy. While we may be judged on Rosh Hashanah as individuals, we seek Rahmanis, we seek the Lord's mercy as a community, as a nation. We seek forgiveness as a nation and as a kehillah and as a people, just like our ancestors did those thousands of years before. 6 times we will rise and say the Vidui, beginning this afternoon at Mincha earlier today, and concluding tomorrow evening at the Nila. We will be saying the words Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi. We have become guilty. We have become guilty. We have betrayed. We have robbed. We have spoken slander. 6 times, all Jews, 6 times one nation stands and confesses in the plural first person. Young and old, liberal and conservative, Israeli and non-Israeli, straight and gay, egalitarian and non-egalitarian, no matter political, religious, or gender affiliation, for a brief moment, our differences are cast aside as we acknowledge our human frailties and our human shortcomings together. Besides the Vidui, in which we confess our frailties as a people, we also seek forgiveness as a people. Invoking the Torah's formula for national repentance that Moshe Rabbeinu first used when he sought forgiveness those thousands of years before when Bnei Yisrael worshipped the golden calf. We will say, Adoshem Adoshem, Kel Rachum V'chanun, Erech Apayim V'rav Chesed V'emet, Notzer Chesed L'alafim, V'fesha V'chata'a, V'nakei V'salachta, L'avonenu Chatatenu Unchaltanu. Hashem, Hashem, God compassionate and gracious, slow to anger and abundant in kindness and truth, preserver of kindness for thousands of generations, forgiver of iniquity, willful sin, and error, who cleanses. May you forgive our iniquities, our errors, and make us your heritage. Again, notice the language. It is in the plural. It is our iniquities and it's our errors. The only individual mentioned, such as it is God, for God is truly one. Our individuality, our differences are put aside as we come together seeking national atonement. Thousands of years ago, during the period of the Beit HaMikdash, Yom Kippur, the National Day of Atonement. During the Avodah service, the Kohen Gadol would sprinkle the blood upon the masses of people. He wouldn't just sprinkle it upon one individual. In that regard, we are indeed a people that understands and seeks the idea of achdut, unity. However, our historical reality of our people has been anything but achdut, anything but a unified nation. A quick synopsis of Jewish history, beginning with that moment of Sinai and the Egel Zahav, would remind us that we are anything but in this kind of thing together. Besides the Egel Zahav, while wandering in the Midbar, you'll recall Korach and his rebellion against Moshe Rabbeinu's authority. And after Yehoshua led Bnei Israel into Eretz Canaan and then passed away, Bnei Israel began that period of Shoftim, of judges. Prior to the heroic deeds of Ehud and Devorah and Gideon and Yiftach, the people would engage in awful behavior. They would Yasu Bnei Israel hara b'nei Hashem, vayishkachu et Hashem Elokechem, v'yavdu et ha'ba'alim v'et ha'asherot. Bnei Israel did what was evil in God's eyes, and they forgot the Lord their God and worshipped Baal and the Asherah tree. Vayivchar af Hashem v'Yisrael v'yimkarem. And God's anger flared against all of Israel, and they were sold or delivered them to the enemy. The enemy may have been the Midianites, the Canaanites, the Ammonites, or any of the other ites. Whoever the enemy was, it didn't matter. What is vital is the pattern of behavior. Our ancestors engaged in idolatry, thereby dividing the community and dividing the tribe. The enemy took over, Bnei Israel realizes its mistake, they pleaded for forgiveness, engaged in the national form of tshuva, God relents, God appoints a judge of the people who unifies the particular tribe, and then the tribe fights a battle against the enemy and everything is great for a period of time. And then the next tribe does the exact same thing. And this goes on and on and on. And then the cynical behavior continues for 400 years, until Saul is named king. And he attempts to unify the country, all 12 tribes, but he fails after 2 years. Along comes David, and we all know about David. And David did unify the country, did unify those 12 tribes, although he was always in tension with the north versus the south. But for 33 years he reigned, and he had unified 12 tribes. And then his son Shlomo HaMelech came along and maintained a unified country, at least until the end of his reign, where because of his marriages to so many wives and engaging in idolatry, the kingdom split apart between the south, Yehuda, and the north, the other 10 tribes. For nearly 400 years, Israel was divided. For nearly 400 years, we were told of numerous northern kings, kings of the 10 northern tribes engaged in idolatry. However, now and then, there was a different cycle. These kings never sought forgiveness. Constant political unrest, constant intertribal warfare as various groups vied for the throne led to the disunited northern kingdom, and eventually they disappeared as Babylonian made its way south. Soon, with the southern kingdom in spiritual disarray due to its leadership, because it had engaged in what was evil in God's eyes, it too collapsed, and the first temple was destroyed. 70 some odd years later, after the second temple was rebuilt, Rome's tyranny was unbearable, and various Jewish groups vied for control. The Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Essenes, to name a few. The Jewish community was again divided between the Pharisees, who eventually took over their spiritual legal leadership, and they became known as the Rabbinic movement. But even within the Rabbinic movement, we all know that there was a division between Shammai and Hillel, and between Rabbi Akiva, who disagreed with Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Akiva felt he should fight Rome, and he sided with Bar Kokhba and declared him as the Mashiach, and they fought, and of course they lost at Beitar, while Yochanan ben Zakkai took a different path, and he decided to create the yeshiva outside of Yerushalayim, and it's that version of Judaism that survived, because they believed in the idea of teaching and understanding that fighting against Rome was going to be a waste of time and leading to utter destruction. The Jewish people remained unified under this idea of rabbinic Judaism at least long enough to create a Talmud. But even within the Talmud, we read dispute after dispute and disagreement after disagreement. Judaism was yet split again under Rabbinic Judaism against the Karaites. The rabbis viewed the Karaites as not so Jewish. Prayers were written as a way of weeding out the non-believers. We do that even to this day. In the second paragraph of the Aleinu, Al-Kain, is from that era when they were trying to weed out who the Karaite Jews were versus the Rabbinic Jews. In Europe, in the 16th century, another false messiah, Shabtai Tzvi, appeared. Some of the poor spiritually needy of Eastern Europe followed him. Others did not, and the community was again divided. Then, of course, there was the division of the 19th and early, the 18th and 19th centuries between the Mitnagdim and the Hasidim. This division within the community became so rife and so awful that the Mitnagdim had one of the great Hasidic masters, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, picked up by the Russian authorities and jailed. Nearly a century later, European Jews were divided as to how to deal with modernity and anti-Semitism. Was it socialism, communism, Zionism, Reform, conservative, or orthodoxy that would be the best possible answer to deal with that? Maybe rather than having this disharmony in Europe, it was better to have the discord in America, Canada. Even Zionists weren't unified. By the early 20th century, there was a civil war for the soul of Zionism between Theodor Herzl and Jabotinsky. And then later on, Ben-Gurion and Begin. There was disagreement, there was argument, there was discord. Sometimes there was even violence, as we are aware, between Ben-Gurion and Begin. Even after Israel fought its war of independence, Israeli society was hardly unified as there was a division between Ashkenaz and Sephardi, between light-skinned European Jews and dark-skinned Middle Eastern Jews. In the West, the division and the discord between Jews focused upon whether or not to assimilate or not, how much or it should be permitted. And after the '67 war, Jews in the West managed to put aside differences when it came time to express support for Israel. Politically, in the United States and Canada, the Israel lobby became very powerful, as support for Israel at some point cut across party lines, but not so much anymore. More Jewishly observant Jews, more Jewishly educated Jews tend to be more supportive of Israel. Less observant, less Jewishly educated Jews tend to be less supportive of Israel. Support for Israel is divided among generations. That difference in the discord has grown starker over the past few years as authoritarian tendencies of both Prime Minister and the President have altered in democratic ideals of those respective societies. From this very brief history lesson, there are a couple of historical truths that I want us to be aware of. One, overall, when we look at our history as a people, we have spent far more time in a state of disagreement and being apart than in a state of agreement and being together. Second, the only time our people were ever unified was when we were in Israel, united under a king. Albeit, we managed to remain united under David HaMelech despite tremendous tribal tensions between North and South. So even when united, there were fissures. But our only time of being a united people occurred during the reigns of David and throughout most of the reign of Shlomo HaMelech. Despite the apparent lack of religious unity, philosophical unity, and physical unity, the Jewish people have not only survived, but I would suggest that they have thrived, making all kinds of contributions to the world, whether in math, science, medicine, philosophy, or technology, just to name a few. So if we are truly disunified and quarrelsome, how have we managed to survive? Certainly we have come a long way from our ancestors during the days of the Shoftim, when a lack of unity was a result of avodah zarah, of idolatrous behavior, or in the days of kings, when it was the leaderships who engaged in idolatrous behavior, and eventually led to our exile from Eretz Yisrael. For centuries and centuries, people have spoken about the demise of the Jews, which I'm sorry to say has been greatly exaggerated. The cynical notion that only our faults, our iniquities, ultimately bind us together as a people hardly seems inspiring. But we are a people of the book. We are a people of Torah and of Talmud. We are a people that places a premium upon asking questions, about struggling to find answers, and frequently and passionately arguing our answers and asking our questions. Historically, we have argued over points in Jewish law. Historically, we have argued over how we deal with an open society in modernity. However, amid our arguing and our disagreeing with one another, we are reminded of the words of Chazal, an argument that is for the sake of heaven, an argument that allows us a deeper understanding of our relationship to God, our understanding of Torah, is a healthy argument, a healthy disagreement, like the disagreements that existed between the house of Shammai and the house of Hillel. Hillel could never claim that Shammai's approach to Jewish law and the Jewish people was a function of his desire to seek the destruction of the Jewish people. When we stand here together saying we do, we stand as a people. Israel, both the country and the people, are a manifestation of our Achdut, and the degree to which Achdut is central to the Jewish experience. So for today, a day in which all the Jewish people, from the tzaddikim to the rashaim to the benonim, to those who are in between the good and the bad, we stand together in seeking forgiveness from God, as well as praying that we, as a people, have the zechut, the merit, to warrant God's mercy. For this one day, beginning tonight, we are reminded more of what binds us together than what separates us. For one day, beginning tonight, we stand as our ancestors at the foot of Sinai, when we rejoice that Moshe descended from the mountain carrying the Aseret Dibrot, with the light of God's glory emanating from his being. And for one day, beginning tonight, our people stand among the angels, indeed, worthy of God's mercy and an intimate presence to be enjoyed between God and his people. Gemar Chatima Tova. We continue with the Maariv service to be found on page 230 on the Shamalah.
Darkecha Eloheinu, Lahari Chapecha, Larovim Latovim, Limanecha Eloheinu, Asay v'lom lanu, Re'amida tehyenu de'elim Ta'ale arucha li'ale nigar, Tinachem alapar be'afer, Tashlichatayenu b'tachon b'ma'aslecha, Tere ki ein ish aseh imonu tzedaka. Adonai Tzavos Ashrei Adam Oteachach, Adonai Hoshi HaMelech Yaneinu B'yom Koreinu. Slachana la'avon ha'am hazeh, Ki godel chazdecha, V'cha'asher nasiach ha'olam hazeh, Mitzrayim b'yadeinu, V'sham נאמר ויאמר אדוני סלחתי כי דברך ישמחני קרא על עירך ויעלמך.
We continue in the bottom half of page 232.
אל תבוא במי שפוד עמנו כי לא יתרק לפניך כל אחד. מה נאמר לפניך? כי לא אל צדקותינו אנחנו מפילים תחנוננו לפניך כי על רחמך הרבים אדוני שמע אדוני סלחה אדוני הקשיבה ועשה אל תאכל למענך כי שמך נקרא על עירך
Please rise as we turn ahead to page 235 at the top of the page.
אל מלך יושב על כיסא רחמים אל הורית לנו לומר שלום 13 זכור לנו היום הרי 13 כמו שהודעת לנו בלי קדם כמו שכתוב וירד אדוני בענן ויתייצב עמו שם ויקרא בשם אדוני ויעבור אדוני על פניו ויקרא אדוני אדוני רחום וחנון ערך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת נוצא חסד לאלפים נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקי אדוני אדוני רחום וחנון ערך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת נושא חסד לאלפים נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקי וסלחת לעווננו וחטאתנו ונחלתנו סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו וחל לנו מתנו כי פשענו כי אתה אדוני טוב וסלח ורב חסד לכל
We turn ahead to page 238 for Shema Kolenu. As the ark is opened, we remain standing.
Shema Kolenu Adonai Eloheinu Chuz rachem aleinu v'kabel b'rachamim u'b'ratzon et tefilateinu Hashivenu Adonai elech v'noshuva Chadesh yameinu ki kedem אל תשליכנו מפניך, ורוח קודשך אל תיקח ממנו. אל תשליכנו לעת זקנה, ככלות כוחנו אל תעזבנו. אל תעזבנו. אל תעזבנו, אדוני אלוהינו, אל תרחק ממנו, עשה עמנו אות לטובה, וירושנו צאננו, ויבושו, כי אתה אדוני עזרתנו, ותניחתנו, כי לא אדוני הוקענו אתה תענה, אדוני אלוהינו.
The ark is closed. We remain standing for the vidui.
אלוהינו, אלוהי אבותינו, סלח לנו, מכר לנו, כפה לנו, כי אנו עמך, ויית אלוהינו, אנו בניך, ויית אבינו, אנו עבדיך, ויית אדוננו, אנו גאלך, ויית חלקנו, אנו נחלתך, ויית גאלנו, אנו שונאך, ויית רענו, אנו חרמך, ויית נוטרנו, אנו פלותך, ויית יוצרנו, אנו ראיותך, ויית דודנו, אנו סגולותך, ויית קרבנו, אנו עמך, ויית מלכנו, אנו ממירך, ויית ממירנו. אנו עזיכנו מיית רחום וחנון, אנו כשאור ויית ערך אפיים, אנו מלאי אהבה ויית מלא רחמים, אנו יומנו כצל עובר, ויית הוא שמותיך לא יתמו. אלוהינו, אלוהי אבותינו, תבוא לפניך תפילתנו, ויד תתעלם מתחינתנו, שאין אנחנו עזיכנו כשי עורב, לומר לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, צדיקים אנחנו ולא חטאנו, אבל אנחנו חטאנו. אוי 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 אשמנו בגדנו גזלנו דיברנו נפי. אוי 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 הבינו הרשענו זדנו חמסנו טפלנו שקר. אוי 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 יעצנו רע קיזמנו לצנו מררנו יעצנו שררנו אבינו פשענו שררנו כשינו ערב. Ay, 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 ay. Roshanu, Shichatanu, Shiavnu, Ta'inu, Tihitanu. Sarnu mimitzvotecho, umimitzvotecho, Chatovim v'lo shava lanu. Yato tzadik al kol habo aleinu. Yemet asita v'anachnu hariyashanu.
You may be seated. We continue on the bottom of 239.
Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Slach umechal lahavanoteinu b'yom Kippurim hazeh. Mano malefanecha, Yoshev Amaron. Uman esaper lefanecha, Shochen shechokim, Halo kol hanisharos, hanigelos, Ata yodeya. Shimkol. Uvechein yihi ratzon lefanecha, Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu, Shetisalach lanu al kol chatoteinu, v'timcha lanu al kol amonoteinu, u'dechaper lanu al kol tishareinu.
Please rise, page 241.
Al shechatanu lefanecha b'imones uratzon, Ve'al shechatanu lefanecha b'imut halev. Al shechatanu lefanecha b'yetzer hara, Ve'al shechatanu lefanecha b'yodim u'v'lo yodim, V'yakulam Elohai salicha, Slach lanu v'chal lanu, Kapeh lanu. Afei shechatanu lefanecha b'einayim ramos, Afei shechatanu lefanecha b'yazut metzah, V'yakulam Elohai salicha, Slach lanu v'chal lanu, Kapeh lanu. Okay. Al shechatanu lefanecha b'tzion b'tzumet yar, V'al shechatanu lefanecha b'timan levav, V'yakulam Elohai salicha, Slach lanu Shobim Alehem Ito B'dei Shamayim V'Achatawim She'onu Hayobim Alehem Harei Zariri Yakulam Eloha Salichor Salach Lanu V'chal Lanu Kapelanu.
You may be seated. We continue on the bottom half of page 243.
Ya Torah Mekabel Shavim Bi'al Hatshuva Merosh Hivtach Nanu Yal Hatshuva Eineinu Niyachalos La V'David Abdecha Amar Lepanecha V'Shigoyot Miyodi Mitnisaros Nakeini Nakeinu Adonai Eloheinu Mikol Tisha'enu V'Tahereinu Mikol Titmotenu Ur'o Kaleinu Mayim Tehorim V'Tahareinu Kakotu Bayam V'Yakol V'Tarakati Aleichem Mayim Tehorim Umaharetem Mikotum Otechem Umikol Ilulechem Aterechem. Anenu onebeitar anenu ami yatomim anenu yayan alamavanot anenu. Rakamana aneyana Rakamana Nemaki Cheru Apanena Rakaman Aneli Tebireli Ba'avanenu Rakamana Anayna Rakamana Hus Rakamana Baruch Rakamana Seiziv Rakamana Rakimalav Hatzta Be'agala Uviz Mankori.
Please rise for the Avinu Malkeinu on the bottom of page 247 as the Aron is now open.
Avinu Malkeinu Chotanu Lefanecha Avinu Malkeinu Hachazireinu B'tshuva Shalema Lepanecha Avinu Malkeinu Shlach Refuah Shalema Lechol Yamecha Avinu Malkeinu Kara Roa Gezartineinu Avinu Malkeinu Zochreinu b'zichron tov b'panecha Avinu Malkeinu kotzbeinu b'sefer chayim tovim אבינו מלכנו כותבנו בספר גאולה וישועה. אבינו מלכנו כותבנו בספר פרנס וכלכלה. אבינו מלכנו כותבנו בספר זכויה. אבינו מלכנו כותבנו בספר סליחה ומחילה. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Paneinu Vahaneinu, Kievanu Mashir, Aseh Imanu, Tzedaka V'Chesed, Aseh Imanu, Tzedaka V'Chesed, V'Hoshienu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Aneinu, Aneinu, Kievanu Mashir, Aseh Imanu, Tzedaka V'Chesed, Aseh Imanu, Tzedaka V'Chesed, V'Hoshienu.
The ark is closed. We remain standing and turn to page 250 for Kaddish Shalem.
Yitkadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbi, Yamad v'achirutei, Yamlich malchutei, V'chayechon u'yomechon, Uv'chayei l'kol Beit Yisrael, Pagalo b'zman karib, Yimeru, Yimeru, Amen. Yeheshmei Rabba mevarach, Yallam olam meyamaya, Yeheshmei Rabba mevarach, Yallam olam meyamaya, Yiparach, Yiparach v'yishtabach, V'yipa'ar v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh v'yitkadar, v'yitalem v'yitzalal, Shemei l'Kudesha, Shemei l'Kudesha, B'richu, V'yela u'leila min kol b'chata, V'shirata tushbechata, tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiram yam amimeru, Imeru, Amen. Titkabel tzelaton, Ugohaton chol Yisrael, Kadam avuhon, Divi Shemaya, Imeru, Imeru, Amen. Yeheshlem Rabba Mishemaya, V'chayim aleinu, aleinu li'al kol Yisrael, Imeru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, Uyaseh shalom, aleinu li'al kol Yisrael, Imeru, Amen.
We continue with Aleinu on page 251.
Aleinu עלינו לשבח לדון הכל, עוד עץ גדולו ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות אדומות, שלא שם חלקנו כהן, וגורלנו ככל העולם, אנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוצר הארץ, ומשל ניכר בשמיים ממעל, ושכים ותוזר לגבי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
Mourner's Cottage, page 252. Yitgadal, Yitgadash, Merabah, Yalma, Divrah, Utei, Yamlichma, Utei, Dichayekon, Yomechon, Uchaye, the whole Beit Israel, Bagala, Yisman Kariv, Yimramen, Yeheshme, Rabba, Barach, Yalam, Polone, Amayo, Yiporach, Yishtabach, Yitpoar, Yisroman, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shemei, Kushabrihu, Elam, Elam, Mikol, Gechata, B'shirata, Tushbachata, V'nechamata, Damiram, Yalma, Yimramen, Yeshlam, Rabba, Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu, V'yal, Kol Yisrael, Yimramen, Oseh Shalom Ramah, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, V'yal, Kol Yisrael, Yimramen. We turn back in our Machzorim to page 38 for Le David Adonai Ori. Le David Adonai Ori.
Kaveh al Adonai chazak v'yamet libecha, v'kaveh el Adonai.
Mourner's Cottage, page 252. Yitgadal, Yitgadash, Merabah, Yalma, Divrah, Utei, Yamlichma, Utei,
V'chayekon, V'yomechon, V'chaye, the whole Beit Israel, Bagala, Yisman Kariv, Yimramen, Yeheshme, Rabba, Barach, Yalam, Polone, Amayo, Yiporach, Yishtabach, Yipar, Yisroman, Yitnaseh, Yitadar, Yitaleh, Yitalal, Shemei, Kushabrihu, Elam, Elam, Mikol, Gechata, B'shirata, Tushbachata, V'nechamata, Da'amiram, Yalma, Yimramen, Yeshlam, Rabba, Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu, V'yal, Kol Yisrael, Yimramen, Oseh Shalom Ramah, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, V'yal, Kol Yisrael, Yimramen.
You may be seated. Just to remind everyone that tomorrow morning we are here again at 9 o'clock. Oh God of forgiveness, on this night of atonement we come before you haunted by memories of duties unperformed, of promptings disobeyed, of beckonings ignored. We confess that there were opportunities for kindness and service which we allowed to pass by the year just ended. We are ashamed of sins committed with evil intent, as well as follies committed unwittingly, or even with good intentions. Make us honest enough to recognize our transgressions, big enough to admit them, strong enough to forsake them. Humble us by showing us what we are, exalt us with a vision of what we may grow to be. Keep us ever mindful of our dependence upon you, and help us understand your need of us. Unite with you in holy partnership, may we dedicate our lives to your law of love. Help us to create homes filled with joy and harmony, and to labor for peace among communities and nations. On this sacred night, grant us atonement and help us find serenity with ourselves, kindle within us the fires of faith, and set aglow our courage to live with the words we pray. We conclude this evening's tefillah on page 253 with Yigdal.
Yigdal Elohim Chai v'yishtabach nimtza v'yenei el mitziyuto echad v'yen yachid ki Yehuda נעלם בגמם סופלי יחדותו, אין לו דמות הגוף, ואינו הגוף, לא נערוך אליו קדושתו, גדול לכל דבר אשר נברא. ראשון ואין ראשית לראשיתו, הינו אדון עולם, וכל נוצר, יורה גדולתו ומלכותו. שפר נבואתו נתנו, ארצי סגולתו ותפארתו, לא קום בישראל כמו שעד נביא ומעביד את תבונתו, תורת אמת נתן ויעמול. על יד נביא נאמן ביתו, לא ישקל יפאר ולא יביר דתו, לעמים לזולתו, סופר ויודע סתרנו, מעביד לסוף דבר לקדמתו, גומר לאיש חסד כמפעלו, נותן לרשע רע כרישתו, ישלח לקץ ימין ושיבנו, לבנות מחכה קץ ישועתו. מתים יחייהם ברוב חסדו, ברוך הדיין שם תהילתו. מתים יחייהם ברוב חסדו, ברוך הדיין שם תהילתו.
When you're reading, please make sure you take your Mafdorim and put them back on the bookshelf where they're found. Also, leaving, please